Some weather events are unforgettable, seared into our collective memory not just for their intensity, but for the way they transform daily life. They become stories we tell for years, moments that define a generation's experience with the raw power of nature. The weekend of February 7th through 9th, 2026 was one of those rare moments, a time when the ordinary rhythm of winter was shattered by something extraordinary. It wasn't just another cold snap, it was a full-scale Arctic invasion, a historic, life-threatening event that gripped the Northeast and New England. News outlets scrambled to keep up with the rapidly changing conditions, and headlines screamed warnings of record-breaking cold and dangerous winds. Air from the polar vortex surged south, breaking free from the Arctic and plunging into the region with shocking speed. Meteorologists watched in awe as the jet stream buckled, allowing a mass of frigid air to descend over millions of people almost overnight. The transition was so fast, it caught many off guard, despite widespread warnings. People who had gone to bed expecting a typical winter night awoke to a world transformed. Sidewalks glazed with ice, cars frozen shut, and a biting wind that seemed to cut right through layers of clothing. A light snowfall on Friday set the stage, reflecting sunlight and priming the ground for even colder air. The snow, beautiful and serene at first, quickly became a harbinger of the deep freeze to come, its white blanket masking the danger that lurked in the forecast. What followed was a level of cold few had ever experienced, with dangerously low temperatures and howling winds. Thermometers plunged well below zero, and wind chills made it feel even colder, conditions that could cause frostbite in minutes. This wasn't just about numbers on a thermometer, it was about survival. Emergency shelters opened their doors to those in need, and city officials urged everyone to stay indoors unless absolutely necessary. The cold was relentless, seeping into homes and straining heating systems to their limits. The cold tested the resilience of millions, from New York City to Maine. Commuters braved the elements, faces wrapped in scarves, eyes squinting against the wind. Neighbors checked on one another, and communities came together to help the most vulnerable. It was a weekend that would be etched into weather history. Meteorologists compared it to legendary blizzards and cold snaps of the past, but this event stood out for its sheer speed and severity. Staying warm became a matter of life and death. Families huddled together by heaters, and the city's infrastructure was put to the test as pipes froze and power grids strained under the demand. The Northeast braced for a test of endurance, unlike any in recent memory, a weekend when nature reminded everyone of its awesome, unpredictable power, and the importance of community in the face of adversity. The polar vortex was the main culprit behind this deep freeze, a vast, swirling mass of brutally cold air that typically remains locked far to the north, circling the Arctic like a frozen crown. But this time, something extraordinary happened, something that would leave millions shivering in its wake. Usually the polar vortex is held in check by the jet stream, a fast-moving river of air that acts as a barrier, keeping the coldest air bottled up near the pole. But in the winter of 2026, the jet stream weakened and fractured, allowing the polar vortex to break loose and surge southward with astonishing force. As the jet stream collapsed, it created a superhighway for Arctic air to pour into the Northeast. The cold didn't just trickle in. It came in a relentless wave, sweeping across the continent and overwhelming everything in its path. This wasn't just cold Canadian air drifting south. This was the coldest air on Earth, nearly untouched and unmodified, racing over the snow-blanketed expanse of Canada. It carried with it the raw, biting chill of the Arctic itself, a cold so intense it seemed to freeze the very landscape in place. Meteorologists watched in awe as they tracked the journey of this air mass from the heart of the Arctic night, where the sun hadn't risen in weeks and temperatures plunged lower each day. The cold grew more severe as it traveled, gathering strength and momentum, until it was ready to descend upon unsuspecting cities to the south. When the Arctic air finally arrived, it did so with little warning. Temperatures plummeted by 30 to 40 degrees in just a matter of hours, catching residents off guard and transforming bustling cities into frozen landscapes almost overnight. People rushed to find shelter as the cold bit through even the thickest winter coats. This was an advective freeze, a dramatic event where cold is transported in from afar, not simply built up during a long winter night. The wind howled through city streets, carrying with it the unmistakable sting of the far north. The sheer volume of frigid air displaced the milder air with brutal efficiency. In a matter of hours, familiar neighborhoods were transformed into icy, unrecognizable worlds as frost crept across windows and steam rose from every vent and manhole. It was a powerful demonstration of atmospheric dynamics on a continental scale, a reminder of how interconnected and unpredictable our planet's weather systems can be, and how quickly the balance can shift. The winter of 2026 would never be forgotten. For those who lived through it, the memory of the polar vortex's descent would remain, a chilling testament to the raw power of nature, and a story told for generations to come. The National Weather Service didn't hold back. They issued the rare extreme cold warning. This alert is reserved for the most dangerous cold snaps, when wind chills drop to minus 25 degrees or lower. Over 43 million people, from Pennsylvania to New England, were under this urgent warning. New York City hadn't seen a warning like this in over 20 years. The message was clear. This was no ordinary cold spell. The NWS emphasized the risk. Frostbite could set in within minutes. Warnings flooded every platform, urging people to change plans and check on neighbors. The goal was to jolt the public into action and prevent tragedy. The unified messaging was critical to public safety. This was a moment when communication saved lives. The numbers from this freeze were staggering, numbers that didn't just represent data, but the lived reality of millions. Each digit on the thermometer was a warning, a testament to the power of nature and the vulnerability of our daily routines. In Watertown, New York, the mercury plunged to a bone-chilling minus 36 degrees Celsius. This wasn't just another cold snap, it was the second coldest February temperature ever recorded in the entire state. For residents, it meant cars that wouldn't start, frostbite warnings, and a sense of isolation as the world outside froze solid. Across the interior Northeast, the cold was merciless. Temperatures plummeted deep below zero, with many towns waking up to readings between minus 15 and minus 25 degrees Celsius. Streets were deserted, the air so cold that every breath stung, and even the hardiest locals felt the chill seep into their bones. Even coastal cities, usually buffered by the ocean's warmth, weren't spared. Boston and New York City shivered under lows rarely seen in decades. The wind whipped through skyscraper canyons, and the city that never sleeps seemed to slow, as people hurried indoors, faces hidden behind scarves and hoods. The cold was relentless, refusing to let up as the weekend dragged on. Heating systems ran non-stop, straining to keep up, while utility crews worked around the clock to repair frozen lines and restore power. Infrastructure groaned under the weight of ice and snow, and the threat of blackouts loomed over entire neighborhoods. Even when the sun rose, it brought little comfort. Daytime highs barely reached the single digits, and playgrounds stood empty, their swings frozen in place. The sunlight sparkled on the snow, but it was a cold, distant light, offering no real warmth to those who ventured outside. The persistent cold forced millions indoors, turning homes into fortresses against the elements. Windows frosted over, doors stayed shut, and public spaces emptied as people huddled together, relying on blankets, hot drinks, and each other to get through the long, frigid nights. The deep freeze brought more than discomfort, it brought real danger. Pipes burst in homes and businesses, flooding basements and leaving families scrambling for repairs. Heating systems struggled and sometimes failed, forcing emergency calls and quick fixes as temperatures inside dropped dangerously low. This wasn't just a cold night, it was a sustained siege, a relentless assault that lasted for days. Snow piled up on rooftops and sidewalks, and the world outside seemed to slow to a crawl, wrapped in a silent, icy grip. The event set new benchmarks, records that will be studied and remembered for generations. News headlines blared the historic lows, and people documented the moment, snapping photos of snowdrifts and frozen thermometers to share with friends and family. Through it all, the Northeast faced a true test of endurance. People braved the cold to check on neighbors, emergency shelters opened their doors, and communities pulled together to help those most at risk. In the end, the numbers told a story of survival, of communities weathering the storm, of neighbors helping neighbors, and of a region that refused to be defeated by the cold. If the temperatures were brutal, the wind made them deadly. Wind chills plunged into the negative teens along the I-95 corridor, and minus 30 to minus 50 degrees in upstate New York and New England. Gusts of 40 to 50 mph turned the cold into a physical, painful force. Frostbite could occur in as little as 5 minutes. Simple outdoor tasks became hazardous, requiring careful planning and protection. Even as the cold eased, wind chills remained dangerously low. The wind made the air feel sharp and biting, a constant threat. This wasn't just discomfort, it was a life-threatening siege. The wind defined the event, demanding respect from all in its path. With such extreme cold, the focus shifted to human safety. Frostbite and hypothermia became immediate threats, even for the healthy. Health officials urged everyone to limit time outdoors, dress in layers, and cover all exposed skin. Hospitals prepared for a surge in cold-related injuries. Tragically, the cold claimed lives. New York City had already reported multiple hypothermia deaths that winter. Vulnerable populations, especially the elderly and homeless, faced the greatest risks. The cold also strained infrastructure, causing burst pipes and heating failures. Carbon monoxide poisoning and fires from unsafe heating added to the dangers. The impact touched every aspect of daily life for one long, frozen weekend. Cities and towns across the Northeast sprang into action. Emergency protocols were activated, and warming shelters opened in public buildings. Outreach teams worked tirelessly to bring the homeless indoors. Declarations of cold weather emergencies mobilized resources and sent a clear message. Take this seriously. Public messaging was relentless. Check on neighbors, bring pets inside, and protect your pipes. Utility crews were on standby for outages and emergencies. The response was swift, coordinated, and focused on saving lives. It was a remarkable display of preparedness and community spirit. Relief finally arrived as the Arctic air retreated. The jet stream shifted, shutting the door to the Arctic and allowing milder air to flow in. By Tuesday, February 10th, temperatures began to rebound. The sun felt stronger, and the wind lost its bite. By Wednesday, some areas saw a 50 to 70 degree swing from the weekend lows. Melting snow and rising thermometers brought a collective sigh of relief. The rapid warm-up, though abrupt, was a welcome end to the siege. The region celebrated the return of seasonable weather after a weekend in the deep freeze. The Great Arctic Blast of 2026 was more than a weather event. It was a test of preparedness and community. Clear, urgent communication from the National Weather Service and local officials saved lives. The event exposed vulnerabilities in infrastructure, especially burst pipes and heating failures. It underscored the need for better insulation and public education on winter preparedness. The crisis also revealed the strength of community, neighbors helping neighbors, and rapid establishment of warming shelters. This spirit of cooperation is our greatest resource in extreme weather. The event was a stark reminder of nature's power and the reality of a changing climate, its legacy lessons in resilience, preparation, and respect for our planet's extremes.